It is March 30th, 2025, and Trump has apparently decided that he's not going to learn any lessons that he could have learned from the Biden administration, and he's also not going to learn from the first term of his own administration because he is right back to bombing Yemen once again and now declaring that he is going to be doing it for a long, long time. But are these bombs that the US is currently dropping on Yemen stopping the Houthis and their blockade on Israel linked ships in the Red Sea? No. Are they stopping Yemen from targeting Israel? Also, no. Instead, he's just expanding the strikes that the Biden administration carried out, now targeting and killing dozens of civilians. And Trump is acting as though this is going to cause the Houthis to stand down, as if he didn't pay attention to the first 4 years that he was in office when the US was actively part of the Saudi Arabia led campaign that carried out 7 years worth of bombings in Yemen. And not only did it not destroy the Houthis, but it eventually led to Saudi Arabia agreeing to stand down to pursue peace with Ansar Allah in Yemen and also with Iran. All of that was the main topic of this week's episode of Sanctioned, which Jax is here to tell you about. He's here to let you know that you can watch that episode right now as a paid subscriber over on my page on Substack and on my page on Patreon. I'll leave all of the info in the description box below. And now let's take a look at a preview for this week's episode of Sanctioned. Now, I'm old enough to remember when Trump campaigned on the promise of peace in the Middle East, right? Peace in the world, saying he was not going to start wars, he was going to stop wars. And I'm, of course, saying that because it was just a few months ago that he was making statements like that. And now you have the Trump administration, including his new director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, who previously called out Trump for bombing Yemen and for supporting Saudi Arabia in their coalition at the time. Well, Tulsi Gabbard's done a full 180, and now all of a sudden she's claiming that Trump is bringing peace to the Middle East by bombing Yemen. And the Trump administration has continued to do just that in terms of the bombing, with additional strikes reported on Thursday night and Friday night. Interesting because the media reports on them here in the West have described them as suspected US strikes, I guess because they don't have a leaked signal chat conversation that's coming out to tell us that the Trump administration is actively strategizing on those strikes, but I digress. Now, the Associated Press did note that when comparing what Trump is doing to what Biden did when his administration bombed Yemen last year, that Trump's version appears to be more intense and more extensive as the US moves from solely targeting launch sites to firing at ranking personnel, as well as dropping bombs in city neighborhoods. And yes, that's the city neighborhood where the guy the US suspects is the Houthis' top missile guy walked into a residential building where they believe that his girlfriend lives, and they decided to just flatten the entire building and kill everyone inside. And then the Trump administration celebrated it and sent each other triumphant emojis in their Houthi PC small group chat on Signal. And not that I'm advocating for the bombing of anyone, but I do find it noteworthy that they followed this guy all the way to this apartment building and waited to launch the strikes until he was in the building, right? Waited to expand the civilian casualties until they really had more people involved that were being hit. Nevertheless, we have Trump now expanding what the Biden administration was doing, but is it actually going to stop the Houthis, right? Because that's supposed to be their stated goal, is that they want to stop the Houthis, or Ansar Allah, as they are officially called in Yemen. They want to stop them from imposing a blockade on Israel-linked ships in the Red Sea. Why is Yemen imposing that blockade in the first place? Oh, well, because Israel has reimposed its blockade on humanitarian aid going into the Gaza Strip for the Palestinians. So Yemen has been very clear about this, and this has been the case for months now, ever since Ansar Allah declared that it was going to intervene on behalf of the Palestinians and that Israel would not have a day of rest for as long as it was carrying on with this genocidal bombardment and blockade of the Palestinian civilians in Gaza. So here we have Trump expanding the strikes right now, targeting, killing dozens of civilians in Yemen. And we also have the fact that all of those bombings are not doing anything to stop the Houthis and their blockade on certain ships going through the Red Sea. And it seems like we've lived through this before. It seems like I've reported this exact story before, except that I was talking about the Biden administration, and that dates back to January 2024, because that's when Biden told reporters regarding the strikes that his administration was carrying out. When you say working, are they stopping the Houthis? No. Are they going to continue? Yes. Now, the irony of this, of course, is the fact that Ansar Allah has released a number of statements in which they have literally called the US out and said that for every escalation that they see from the US, and they are going to continue to escalate on their end. That means an escalated blockade in the Red Sea. That also means escalated attacks on Israel. And notably, on Sunday, air raid sirens were heard in Israel as the military said that it intercepted a missile fired from Yemen following a similar case on Thursday. And to make matters more bizarre, Trump is not hiding what he's doing here whatsoever. In fact, he told reporters in the Oval Office this week that, quote, the Houthis want peace because they're getting the hell knocked out of them, and that the attacks every day, every night have been very successful beyond our wildest expectations, that we're going to do it for a long time. We can keep it going for a long time. Okay, so on one hand, you have Trump claiming that these strikes are very successful, right? We couldn't even imagine how successful they would be. And then immediately after that, he claims that we're going to keep them going for a very long time. So in other words, the US is entering into or re-entering into yet another endless war, which again is the exact opposite of what Donald Trump campaigned on when he was running for office. And that was a preview of this week's episode of Sanctioned, which you can check out right now if you go and sign up as a paid subscriber over on my page on Substack. That's rachelblevins.substack.com. You can also catch it over on my page on Patreon. That's patreon.com/rachelblevins. And this is episode 29 of Sanctioned. So there are 28 other episodes if you are brand new and want to catch up. There's lots of material for you to check out there if you're interested in joining that community and actively supporting my work. As always, thank y'all so much for all of your support, and we'll see you next time.